This episode presented by Sony 4K X900H Full Array LED TV. Welcome to Next Gen Console Watch 2020, our show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. I'm Damon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Always good to see you, Damon.
You as well. And Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Beyond. Hey there, Damon.
Hello there. Now, if you're watching this show, it is presumed that you have some interest in next-gen consoles. We know pre-orders sold out very quickly, so not everyone that wanted one was able to get one. But I think there's also another group of people who, while they're interested in the next-gen consoles, they're not interested in getting their foot in the door on launch day, and they're waiting. And I think that's perfectly fine. That's what we're going to open the show up on today. Is there a really a great reason to get a next-gen console this holiday? Do you need to have one at launch? Ryan, let's begin with you. Xbox Series X is a very powerful console, supposedly the most powerful console, but they lost their big launch game. They lost their ace in the hole with Halo Infinite. Of course, we are getting these consoles. It's our job. It's our livelihood. But what's your feeling out there? Do Xbox fans really need to pick up an Xbox Series this holiday?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't hold it against anybody who decides to sit back and wait. I mean, there's something to be said for waiting to see if there are any initial bugs in the early units. I mean, we saw that, of course, the 360 was personified that with the red ring stuff, and there are pros and cons. Of course, on the other side of it, if you were an early buyer of the PS3, you got hardware baked in backward compatibility with PS2 and PS1, so it kind of can go two ways, but as far as where we sit now in 2020 with the Series X and the PS5, yeah, I mean, there literally aren't a lot of next gen games at launch. There are games that are optimized for the Series X and that will play and look great on your PS5 as well. But it's a pretty short list of stuff that you actually literally need one of these new consoles for. Microsoft just announced their launch lineup, which I have in front of me. It's a long list of 30 games, and that's a ton of games. But it's a mix of old stuff, new stuff, indie stuff, optimized for Series X from the past. And I'll just kind of run down the list real quick.
Sure.
I mean, I won't go through the whole thing, I guess, but you've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That's a major AAA title that's probably going to look great on the Series X. An example of an older game, Borderlands 3, has been out for a while, but there is a next-gen optimization for that. Should you want to resume playing it, if you haven't played in a while, you can pick it up on and continue it on PS5 and Series X with some next-gen optimizations, or maybe you're new to it. You go down the list. It's Bright Memory, but not Bright Memory Infinite from the May event. It's sort of the precursor to that, but that's coming. And you've got stuff like Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, again, sort of an upgraded version of an existing game. Fortnite, and then older game, Forza Horizon 4, gorgeous already, and it's going to be even more gorgeous, optimized for the Series X. Gears Tactics, which I already happened to play that on PC earlier this year, but that's probably going to be the one game for a lot of Xbox Series X buyers who don't play on PC. That's the one that's a legitimately new first-party game. And you go down the list, and it's kind of the same, like Maneater is an upgrade. Tetris Effect Connected is kind of a deluxe edition of a game that we've already seen on other platforms. Watch Dogs Legion has a Series X optimization. So it's a long list of games, and there's some great variety here. But at the end of the day, on the Xbox side of things, there's almost literally nothing that you absolutely have to have this console for. And all that's going to come, of course. There's a ton of great stuff on the way, but for this holiday, it's a lot of, upgrades, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the SSD drive alone, increasing the loading speeds, is an incredible quality of life feature to have. But yeah, I would say I wouldn't hold it against anybody if they're kind of hanging back and letting things develop a little bit, and maybe they can catch a deal on like a Costco bundle with a second controller, something like that, a little down the ways.
Yes, it is slim pickings for truly next-gen experiences on Xbox Series. But Jonathan, things look a little bit better on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's, the question of whether it is worth it to jump into next gen. First of all, of course, especially within this year and all these strange financial circumstances that have arisen that have caused people to maybe not have the funds. Definitely, I don't think it is wrong to wait on next gen one if you couldn't get a pre-order in the scramble of it all, if you can't afford it right now, or if you're just not interested. I think on either side, you are still going to be okay if you have a last gen console, at least for the foreseeable few months, even into 2021. We're going to be getting games across both consoles, even on upcoming big games like Horizon Forbidden West on the PlayStation side. That's going to be on PS4 as well. But when it comes to the PS5, the first party side of it, there are some games that are cross gen when it comes to Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales and Sackboy Big Adventure. But on the exclusive side, Destruction All Stars as well as Demon Souls are just on PS5 at the moment from the first party publisher side. And then you've also got, of course, Demon Souls as the really big flagship one, but then also Astro's Playroom, which is built into it. And granted, the PlayStation 4 launched with a built-in Playroom, which was sort of the Astrobot precursor. Not a lot of people loved that, and I don't blame them. I will say, though, that Sony Japan really knocked it out of the park with Astrobot Rescue Mission for PSVR, and Astro's Playroom is functionally a sequel to that, just not in VR. And so I think Astrobot is one of the best platformers of this generation, like VR or not. And so having a built-in free platforming adventure just right there from the jump really excites me as a platforming fan. So that's definitely a big one. And then on the multi-platform or third-party side, Godfall is a console exclusive. It's also coming to PC. And then we also have some cross-gen platform exclusives where you get into this weird territory with things like the Pathless and Bugsnax. They're going to be both on PS4 and PS5 as well as PC, but not on Xbox. So if you are upgrading to PS5, you are going to get a lot of, I think, really interesting experiences in the best way possible, most likely, depending on if you have a PS4 or PS5. I think it comes down to a lot of complicating factors like, did you upgrade during this generation? If you're still on a launch PS4 or Xbox One, I think upgrading is going to go a long way if you didn't take the One X or the PS4 Pro jump. I think, jumping in, it's really going to be worth it. And just as Ryan was saying, the SSDs alone on these, I will be happy if these consoles just make all of my games load faster. That is just a wonderful bonus. And so for me, I'm actually pretty excited on the PlayStation front because I looked back at it. The PS4 launch did not have a lot going for it, especially on the exclusive side. Exclusive-wise, we had Knack and Killzone Shadowfall, which, the legacy of Knack aside, aren't really games we hold up as gems of the PS4 exclusive library anymore. And so everything else pretty big either was on PS3 or on PlayStation Vita as well, games like Resogun and Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So the PS4 also didn't have backward compatibility. So at least for me on the PS5 side, I really, really am excited for the way they're continuing things in a way they didn't last generation, but are also hopefully offering some new experiences when it comes to that PS5 exclusive library side of things.
Those are all really good points. The next-gen consoles are expensive, probably $500 for most people. And then if you really want to take full advantage of the new graphics capabilities of these consoles, there's some very specific features you need in a TV. It could mean also needed to add a new TV on top of that. What are those features you need to be looking for? That is the subject of our next conversation. We are now joined by IGN's executive editor of tech, Bo Moore, to talk about what you're going to be looking for in TVs to really take advantage of your next-gen consoles. Bo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Damon.
So this is a topic we touched on much earlier in the year, towards the beginning of this show, but it is always a popular topic with our audience. Everybody wants to know what features they need to be looking for when they buy a new TV to make sure that they can take full advantage of both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. So, Bo, what do you think is like the best place to start?
I mean, obviously the first place you want to start is with 4K. Like, the whole point of these next gen consoles is to push out a 4K signal. That's what they're doing that the previous and current generation of consoles can't really do. So if you're not getting a 4K TV, I don't know what to tell you. That's the whole reason we're here. But something else you want to be looking for is probably HDR. Some, not all games, but a lot of the really, really nice looking games have HDR capabilities. And that's what's going to give you a really, really fantastic picture quality, really great colors, and that you get these, especially really alien environments. Destiny 2, for example, does HDR really nicely. And you just get these wonderful views, and the colors are just really, really great on in your games.
Now, is it true that just because a TV might support 4K, it might not also support 120 hertz?
That is correct.
Okay.
Most 4K TVs will just be 60 hertz, and that's for the refresh rate that we're talking about.
Gotcha.
But there's a handful of TVs, basically the flagships from most of the major companies that are coming out this year, that will. It's actually all going to be coming via future software updates, but they'll be able to do 120 hertz, and so that's the capability that you'll be looking for as games, especially further into this console generation, when developers have had more of an opportunity to really take advantage of the power of these next gen consoles, that they can push frame rates higher than 60 FPS. I don't know if we'll be seeing a lot of games played at 4K above 60 FPS, but and there will be some that will be taking advantage of that higher frame rate rather than necessarily the resolution.
Mm-hmm. Of course, game mode on a TV has been around for a while, but I've noticed recently a lot of TVs will automatically switch to an ultra low latency game mode. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's another new feature that's been enabled by HDMI 2.1, which is the new display standard that's found on the next gen consoles, and that is also found on this kind of new crop of quote unquote next gen TVs. And so auto low latency mode is what basically it's exactly what it sounds like when the TV detects a game signal, it will automatically switch into the game mode or the low latency mode to reduce input lag between your controller and the game to the TV and what you're seeing. And it really just makes things a lot easier so that you don't have to go into the settings each time, especially if, for example, you use your console also as the way that you watch Netflix. And so while you can maybe have the channel on your TV that the game console is plugged into set to game mode, if you're then using Netflix through the game console, you're going to then have to go into the settings each time and switch it. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the auto low latency mode, it'll just swap it automatically for you.
Got it. Are there any special considerations based on which console you're planning to get? Or if you found a TV with the features that we're discussing here, are you going to be covered with either the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X?
You're pretty much going to be covered. Both the consoles they both have the HDMI 2.1 port that I mentioned. And as long as you're using proper HDMI 2.1 cable, and then your TV has the HDMI 2.1 standard and these features, then yeah, the other big feature that you should be looking for is variable refresh rate on your TV. And what that does is most TVs and monitors in the past, they have just been able to have their refresh rate is locked to 60 hertz. That's why we've always been trying to get 60 FPS. That's been kind of the gold standard for games. But with a variable refresh rate, that's what allows the TV to actually match the refresh rate of the TV to the incoming frame rate of the game. And that way you don't have to, it basically just eliminates screen tearing. And it just makes everything look much nicer. And you don't have, it lets you have both a synced picture so that you don't get any stuttering, as well as a lack of screen tearing.
And just to jump in for a real world example on Bo's point, when Microsoft sent along the preview Series X that's behind me, they were adamant to remind me, use the cable that we provide you with the Series X, because it's an HDMI 2.1 cable. So just for everybody out there, I know it can be a pain. You want to just leave and use the same HDMI cable that's already wired up in your entertainment center, but you do want to swap it out with the new 2.1 cable that'll come with your console.
Got it. Well, with all that in mind, Sony is giving you an opportunity to get your very own Sony X900H 4K HDR full array LED TV, a price valued at $1,399. This television comes with the aforementioned 4K HDR full array LED display, acoustic multi-audio, 4K and 120 frames per second compatibility, and reduced input lag of 7.2 milliseconds. Just follow the link below to see the official sweepstakes rules and enter before the deadline at 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, October 22nd for your chance to win, and you too might be able to start your next generation gaming experience in style. Bo, thank you so much for joining on this special episode.
Thanks, Damon.
We have a breaking news update that we need to shoot a pickup for this episode. Sony has finally revealed the UI for the PlayStation 5. Here to fill us in on some more details is IGN News reporter Matt Kim. Matt, thank you for stepping in for Jonathan. What would you say are the key takeaways from the video Sony released today, finally revealing the PlayStation 5 user interface?
Yeah, hey Damon. Happy to be here. Yeah, so Sony today revealed a UI tour, a video tour. It was 11 minutes long, and it went over the key main takeaways that's coming to the next gen console. And it's all centered around this new feature called the Control Center, which just pops up seamlessly in your game. It sounds like if you hit the PS button, it just like pops up, and it won't like stop your game or take you to a home screen. It just exists there as like an overlay. And a big part of the Control Center is a feature called Activities, and that's sort of Sony's big selling point for its next gen UI. And Activities has a variety of different features, all centered around gameplay. It tracks missions, so there's like little percentage of like you're 30% done with this activity or this mission. It looks like there's even in-game help that you can pop up into like a little picture-by-picture video. So think of like having a like a YouTube walkthrough, except it's like directly in your game, provided by the developer. And so that's a pretty big feature going forward. And it's a little unclear how intrusive this feature might
Mhm.
be, or
Hmm.
or how passive it might be. I spoke with some developers, and they told me that it's not going to be forced on the player. So it sounds like there's some customization elements to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what they showed today of Activities, but they said they're promising more reveals to come later, so who knows what else is in store.
Hmm.
Um, Other little features about the Control Center is Parties, which has a big upgrade going forward. It kind of reminded me of Discord, where you can just like drop in and drop out of like chats that your friends are already having. Uh, Another big feature is if your friend is playing a game, you can even like watch them. I don't think it's quite like streaming, but like if you can join in and see your friend play Uncharted, for example, if you're in the same party. So that's one, and then finally there's they showed very briefly what like the home menu would be, and that's
Mhm.
exists separately from the control center that like overlays on top of your game.
Mhm.
The home menu looks very different. It looks almost Apple TV-esque, but that's just my personal takeaway. But
Mhm.
it's got a clean look, a lot of big visuals, and one big change is that the PlayStation Store is now integrated into the UI, so it's no longer a separate app that you have to open up.
Very cool. Well, Matt, thank you so much for stepping in for Jonathan today.
No problem.
Jonathan is hard at work writing his own feature with some analysis on exciting new features in the PlayStation 5 UI. You'll be able to read that later on IGN.com. And if you haven't watched the full video from Sony detailing the UI, you can also watch that at IGN. Okay, before we go, we have the results of last week's poll. We asked you, what is your dream next-gen console color? If you could pick any color, what would you choose your next-gen console to be? Blue, atomic purple, red, green, or gold? And clear one with 30% of the votes. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Yeah,
Ryan,
it's not even a color.
I know.
Think-
And what other consoles have been
It's
clear? Just the
absence of
Nintendo
color.
64? Oh man.
Wasn't there a
handheld.
special edition, Jonathan? Wasn't there a special edition PS4 that was like sort of transparent?
So yeah, the 500 million limited edition PS4 Pro. It was like a very dark blue, translucent covering, but you could kind of see into the internals with the right lighting. It was I think, a good approach to the clear, because honestly, I don't know if I just want a bunch of fans and the heat sink just sitting next to my TV clear. But if it was like a nice, mostly dark color that I could kind of see through a little bit, maybe I'd like clear in that case.
I can't believe it. Clear came in number one. Right at the bottom of the list was gold. Not too many people interested in a gold console, which is funny because there is that third-party company that's selling a gold-plated PlayStation 5 for $10,000.
They're out of luck.
I know. Okay, here are your polls for next week. We have not one, but two polls for you, one for PlayStation, one for Xbox. So the first one, we'll do Microsoft first. With Microsoft announcing its next-gen launch games lineup, what is your favorite Xbox launch lineup from each generation? So original Xbox 360 and Xbox One. To refresh your memories, Xbox had things like Halo, Oddworld, Munch's Odyssey, and Project Gotham Racing. The 360 had Perfect Dark Zero, Cameo, and Call of Duty 2. And Xbox One had Forza Motorsport 5, Rise, Son of Rome, and Dead Rising 3. Ryan, for your money, which Xbox had the most impressive launch lineup?
The 360 lineup was so good that we didn't even have space to list them in our little poll field there that you read off. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, Cameo, a lot of people, maybe that hasn't aged as well, but it was fun at the time. They had just acquired Rare not too long before that. But Call of Duty 2 was a de facto exclusive because the PlayStation 3 hadn't come out yet. And that's the game, Call of Duty 2, Infinity Ward. That was right when Call of Duty started to become the juggernaut that it is today. So yeah, Call of Duty 2, Cameo, again, Perfect Dark Zero, not regarded quite in the highest of esteem historically. But even Condemned is actually one of my favorite 360 launch titles. Monolith doing a first-person kind of melee brawling, kind of creepy, kind of horror game. Fantastic stuff. So yeah, I go with the 360.
Okay, and then on the PlayStation side, what's your favorite PlayStation launch lineup of all time? The original PlayStation had stuff like Rayman and Ridge Racer. PS2 had Midnight Club, Time Splitters, Unreal Tournament. PS3 had Resistance: Fall of Man, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and Call of Duty 3. And PS4 had Killzone Shadowfall, Knack, and the aforementioned Resogun. Jonathan, which one's your favorite?
Probably the original PlayStation, just for sort of the hallmarks of stuff like Ridge Racer and Rayman. I think there's a lot of love and nostalgia, especially for that lineup. I really think the Resistance franchise is super underrated, and I wish we got to see more of it. Obviously, Insomniac is just doing fine with the games they currently have, but I definitely think that was an underrated one in the sort of PlayStation library. So the PS3 one definitely had some hits, but probably PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, depending on sort of where your genre allegiances lie, I think.
Gotcha. Well, dear viewers, we want to know which were your favorite launch lineups. Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we will share the results with you next week. And that will about do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch 2020. Thank you to both Ryan, Jonathan. Thank you to Bo. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern with more PS5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.